You're listening to the Reflective Teacher Podcast, and this is episode number 4. Hi, I'm Selena Woodward, and I'm an English and drama teacher, university lecturer, and with edufolios.org, a big-time reflective practitioner. So how can reflective practice help you grow your teaching skills, fall in love with your profession all over again, and help you nail accreditation and teacher registration with less stress and less work? Well, this is the Reflective Teacher Podcast. Happy Wednesday. It's that time again, and I'm really pleased that you're here listening. Thank you so much, because I know how busy you are and how important your time is. Over the next couple of weeks on this podcast, we're going to be talking a lot about time and about focusing that time to make sure that we're making the most of it when it comes to reflective practice. But today, I would really like to talk to you about something a bit more personal to myself, and that is an agreement that I've made with myself to fail and make mistakes at least 5 times this term, and to talk about that in my Edufolio. Now, I talk about this with you because this is a point of growth for myself. As an educator, I'm sure you'll agree there's always a lot of pressure to try and be perfect, to try and demonstrate that we don't make mistakes, that everything we do has the desired outcome, the thing that we intended it to do. But the reality is, there is absolutely no such thing as perfection in a classroom. It's just impossible. There cannot be perfection in a classroom, no matter how well prepared you are. There will always be things that are outside of your control. Why? Because we deal with little humans every day, and there are 30 of them in some classrooms. There is no way it is possible to be perfect for every person in your classroom. Now, that might feel quite a hard thing, and you might be going, well, I disagree with you there, Selena, because it's our job to make sure that we are perfect for everyone. And as an educator, I have to be leading, and therefore, to be the best leader in my room, I have to be the expert. I can't make mistakes, and it would be very unprofessional of me to share those mistakes with others. It would make me look like less of a good teacher. Well, I totally disagree with that. And I'm just going to put that out there in this episode. You see, particularly when it comes to your portfolio of practice, we have a habit of only showcasing things that make us look good. We know that portfolios are something that a principal might look at, for example, when it comes to prospective employment. And for some reason, we have it in our mind that a principal only wants to see everything that's fabulous about us. And I happen to know that most principals value educators who are continually learning, growing, and developing. I know that you know that I firmly believe that learners make the best teachers. If someone is willing to try something in a place that's not comfortable, that they may make a mistake, then I know that they're making those judgments and taking those very calculated risks because they're trying to learn something, and they're trying to have a bigger impact on the students they're working with or the staff that they're mentoring and coaching. It could even affect the site that I'm working at. You see, portfolios of practice are not supposed to be just about what went well in your lesson. If you want to reduce the stress and time of gathering evidence for accreditation, the easiest way to do that is to be honest with what you're doing in your practice, to focus on what you're doing right now, write about it, write about what went well, what didn't, and what you're going to change. Because as you do that, you are going to create stories of practice which demonstrate your growth, which is exactly what you need to show when it comes to accreditation for full registration, highly accomplished, and lead. You need to be able to show that you are listening to either your students, your team, or the site's needs, and you are adapting those needs to create a great, strong impact. And there is no way you can have that impact without first trying something, taking a risk, making mistakes, and growing, which is why this term I am going to fail at least 5 times. At least 5 times. I'm going to try things and they're not going to work. And I'm going to take each one of those failure attempts, those failures, and see them as we talked about in episode 1, a first attempt in learning. I am going to show everybody in my e-portfolio that yes, I make mistakes, but that I learn from them and I grow from them, and that the impact of that learning is so powerful that it increases the efficacy and the skills of my students, which is exactly what I'm here for. I'm bringing this up now because we're a few weeks into the term. Now, it doesn't matter if you're coming to this podcast at a different time, but as we're a few weeks into the term, or wherever we're at in the year, we really should have written at least one reflection by now in our portfolio. It might have been that we wrote down our goals, as we talked about in episode 1. Maybe we recorded some initial observations about our new classes and how we're getting to know them. A lot of the podcasts have been around that standard 1 area. And it might be time to write a second post, a check-in post where we're saying, well, this is how I'm going with my goals, or here's some strategies that I have put into place to meet the needs of X, Y, and Z. But the question is, how honest are you going to be in these posts? How much are you going to talk about what you tried, what didn't work, and how you've altered your plans? How important is that honesty? At Edufolios, we believe in something called reflectionism, not perfectionism. In fact, we made that word up. To be a reflectionist is something truly Edufolio-y, if that's a word in itself. In fact, when you sign up for an Edufolio, you go through a process of receiving and achieving your reflectionist badge, because we pride ourselves on educating you around reflective practice for growth, not just to talk about what you've done, but reflective practice to help you grow and develop. That's what we're here to do. And as I've said, perfectionism just cannot exist in a classroom. There are way too many factors. We've all been there, right? It's hot right now in Adelaide. It's going to be 40 odd degrees all week. It's mental. But we know that the weather affects behavior. You could have planned the most amazing thing in the world, and I will never forget the day One Direction split up. Now, that might be before your time, but nothing got done the day One Direction split up. Not at all. Nothing. Life gets in the way. High winds, full moon, game over. You know what I'm talking about. Stuff happens, and it's not always down to you. And when those moments happen, we have a moment to learn, to grow. And that is what reflective practice is all about. It is not about reflecting on what went well and leaving it there. In fact, I heard a really great quote in a podcast I was listening to not long ago, and the phrase went, if you limit yourself to what you already do well, your world becomes small. If you limit yourself to what you already do well, your world becomes small. We would never ask our students to limit themselves to only what they think they do well. We would never ask that of them. We would always ask them to grow and develop and make strides, make mistakes, to get feedback, to learn from that. And we should expect no different from ourselves. In my own Edufolio, edufolios.org/Selena Woodward, there is a post that I wrote in 2017 called Learning When You're Leading, Sometimes It Gets Super Uncomfortable. And I wrote this post about a workshop that I was teaching at the university I work in that went completely wrong. Completely wrong. Lots of things went wrong. And I shared this on purpose because I also learned a lot from this experience. And there have been times when I have shared that post with other educators and they've been concerned that I am putting something out there that does not demonstrate my best foot forward. I don't see it that way. I see those posts where I'm talking about what went wrong and what I would do differently next time as my best foot forward. Because I have a choice as a learner. I can choose not to grow. I can choose to ignore it and not acknowledge it and move on. Or I can choose to acknowledge it, to learn from it, to reflect on it, and to move forward so that I can have a greater impact on my students in the future. And that is what I see those posts as representing. And I felt it was important to share that with you because I know that some of you might still be wondering whether it's okay to put things that didn't go well in your portfolio. Is it okay to demonstrate when you failed first attempt in learning? The answer to that, I totally believe, is absolutely yes. It is actually really important. There are two types of e-portfolio out there. There's the showcase portfolio that is written purely to jump through hoops and to meet standards. And there is a portfolio that is written to help you grow as a practitioner and help you see your strengths and celebrate those moments when you do get it right and you see amazing impact happening for your students. Those portfolios will automagically, and it is automagically, there is magic, they will automagically show you when you are ready for highly accomplished, lead, proficient or graduate, whichever career stage, but the focus will not be on the process of jumping through hoops. The process will be on the true process of learning as an educator. The process should always be about you being the chief learner in your classroom. And sometimes we need to make sure that we share that learning by showing what we didn't do well. One of the ways that you can plan to fail, that's right, plan to fail, is to make sure that you're pushing yourself. To make sure that the goals that you have for yourself this term, this year, frighten you a little bit. One of the podcasts coming up will be talking about some of the reasons people feel they can't go for the next career stage, and we'll talk about how we overcome some of those fears. But fear is actually a really good indication that you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and you're trying to push yourself to grow. So if you feel a little bit uncomfortable about what you're trying to do, in a good way, and use your senses, if you feel that this is actually impossible and you're telling yourself that this couldn't possibly be true, then it's always worth a try. It's always worth trying. Those are the moments where you might fail, or you may fail and learn something, or you may actually surprise yourself and nail it first time. Who knows? So for example, right now I'm working on an ICT policy for a school. And that's quite intimidating for me, believe it or not, even though I'm an IT expert. And I suspect that's why it is quite intimidating. I'm actually rewriting the policy to align it with the ICT general capability. And I'm creating levels that the students will sign off on. So they will move up the levels that line up with the general capability so that each set of students has an appropriate IT agreement based on the things they're supposed to know at their age, using the language they're supposed to understand at their age. I wrote that policy not knowing whether it would be understood, accepted, embraced, but I did it anyway. And I've learnt lots of things by working with the principal on this policy. I took a risk and it paid off. And I always say this to my pre-service teachers at the uni I work in. If you're a new teacher, then you kind of get a bit of an excuse to be a bit more experimental. You can take risks because you're new here, you're just learning. And if we all felt that way, if we always knew that we were learning all the time, then maybe as a profession, we will be more forgiving around making little mistakes that help us make big changes and make amazing, powerful impact on our students and our colleagues. Imagine what a powerful piece of reflection you're going to get by writing about something that you did that didn't work. You might have already tried with the goal setting podcast. I hope that you're going to go away now and you're going to think about something that you feel might be really impossible. It might be that unit that you've been avoiding planning. It might be that one student that you still haven't connected with. It might be that PD that you really need to do that you're a bit frightened of asking about. It might be a conversation with a mentor or a senior leader asking them or telling them that you'd like them to sign off your paperwork for proficiency by the end of term 3. And maybe right now that feels terrifying, but you're going to try anyway, and you're going to go for it, and you're going to grow, and you're going to make a massive difference to yourself, your self-esteem, your confidence, your impact in your classroom, and the impact you're having on your students. And that, after all, is what we are here to do. Set yourself a goal. Don't allow your brain to tell you haven't got time, it's too hard, it's too much work, I'll hate it, I'm not qualified enough, I haven't been doing this for long enough, oh my goodness, people will think that this isn't possible. Don't allow your brain to do that. Tell your brain it's okay. We're going to try, we're going to fail along the way, and we're going to learn as we go. We're going to use the same attitude we use with our students, with ourselves, and let's see what we can achieve. Now, next week, we're going to talk about ways in which you can plan those reflections, ways in which you can structure things in your diary and in your portfolio to help make sure that you make time for those important moments of powerful reflection and growth. I'll see you next Wednesday for the Reflective Teacher podcast. Take care.